Now let's take Copilot and kick it up just a bit. Now let's start looking at how to put it to work while you sleep. That's where you're going to want to look at having those repositories and having it take action and building the intelligence. So we're going to start with the brain of these foundations of an AI agent, and we're going to go through the 4 layers of it. So I like to start with the brain layer. So the brain and the intelligence, we're going to pick our LLM. So the best ones here are going to be your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Gemini, or an open source like Llama, something of that nature. You got to decide cloud versus local and what you're going to automate. You don't want to use a sledgehammer to install a thumbtack. That's where you're going to need to break out that little hammer to just tap it in. That is the right model. Sometimes people are deploying these really big multi-billion token models in their automation, and it slows things down versus a fraction of a second. And overthinking things, if you're looking for a repeatable process, a smaller, more refined model that has been boiled down to a particular task is going to work better, especially on automation. I have an automation that I crafted that uses actually a very small model and is able to do reading of documents and processing of what's coming in via an email. I don't want it to have too much intelligence because I want it to have the right answers quickly. Next thing you're going to do is we've defined what our brain is going to be. Now we're going to take the integrations, which are kind of the hands and feet, the operations of what it's going to do. So here we need to look at what tools we're going to tie into the agent. So this is where we're going to say, oh, we're going to tie it into our email, our CRM, our Slack, a backend database. What do we want to have as our elements that need to talk to each other? You want to do this in your defining stage because sometimes the data is not really accessible. Do you know if that HR data is even available via API or a way to bake the triggers off of the HR system? These integrations, it's best to get involved quickly and figure out what are going to be the tie points. Using the body analogy, the next thing we're going to do is going to be the instructions. So this is really the DNA of the operation of the agent here. So we're going to create our prompting, and that's going to be the rules of engagement. And what you can do here is actually use ChatGPT or one of the LLMs to create your prompt to use with it. Tell it exactly what you're going to do. I'm trying to create an agent to do this. Help me craft my prompt. And then go in and tune the prompt for your particular use case. Tight instructions, tight frameworking, and telling it is going to give you much better outcomes, as well as cut down on the frustration when it comes iteration time. The final piece to this body analogy is going to be the memory. So this is where you're going to do what we talk about sometimes, retrieval augmented generation. We're going to have our content. We are going to feed it what we need it to know. So as we talked about having the brand strategy, having the brand documents, you want to be able to feed into your agent what is needed for it to be able to do its job. Think about if you're training an intern. You need to tell them, here is the phone numbers you're going to call, here's what you're going to do, here's going to escalate. Think of that knowledge that you need to put into the model, to put into your system to be able to get that type of output from the agent. So what you do and when we code these agents, new requests don't affect the memory. Our memory is done at load up time. We can decide whether it's going to keep what it learns along the way or not keep what it learns. There's use cases for both depending on what type of system. If you've got a chatbot and you've got a lot of users that might ask silly questions and could pollute the outcomes, then you don't want to have that go into the memory. You want to take your base memory and push out. Now, if you're looking to have something that is going to evolve over time and be able to ask questions and answer questions in the future that it can't today, that is where having the memory have that short-term memory and be able to bring that back into the model. So that's something you need to think about is what's the short-term, the conversational memory, and what is the long-term, the company use case and SOP manual on this. What do you want to remember? What do you want to forget? Those are big questions to answer while you're trying to look at this. The other piece to this is going to be figuring out what are your critical elements that it has to be able to answer a certain way, and what are the critical elements that it needs to make sure it's got guardrails to not hit. and make sure. So what I like to do there is cross-check the models, and we even put in place with our models. So I have a script that runs when I bring up my LLM to say, I'm now going to validate that I'm getting the right answers out of it. That's really the way that we are able to get the most predictable results.